So, wartime movie or shark movie? So Ryan's here.
If it's a war or sharks, or a war on sharks, I'll be there.
This was actually originally going to be me, Ryan, and Dave. But as you've probably seen from the still shots of the videos posted, things changed. What happened was Sarah, it was going to be us three at this movie, Sarah and Brian at the Best of Me and Jake at the kids movie, Book of Life. I get a text from Sarah that's like, I'm not feeling too well from the Chipotle that I had. Can we go see this tomorrow, or can maybe Jake go see it instead? Because she filled in for Jake last week at that Alexander movie, and I was like, well, I can't tomorrow. I'm gonna be in New York. Jake's seeing the kids movie with me, and the way that the two times are, the two movies overlap each other. I was like, I'll shoot a text to Irving. I didn't hear back from Irving. So I'm like, can you ask Dave if instead of seeing Fury,
right,
he can go see the Nicholas Sparks movie? She writes back, he says no.
Right, yeah. Like how fast did that no text come back?
Actually, pretty fast.
Pretty fast.
Actually, really fast. So I'm like, I'll pay for him to go see Fury, whenever he wants to go see it after this. She's like, okay. He says okay, and that you're a bastard. I tried making it up to him. I went all over town. I was telling you earlier. Yeah. I went all over this end of town to liquor stores, gas stations, pretty much every single one of them on this end of town to find cans of Sparks energy drink, because Nicholas Sparks. Actually, Brian really loves that drink, so he would have really liked that to set in the seats as they'd come in and they could have some.
What
Sparks.
I love is that you will go to just incredible lengths for a very dumb joke that's really just for you.
Yeah. Honestly, Brian would have.
And I love that. I love that.
It was so totally. It was like I went over fuck. You can find fucking Ford logo everywhere. I guess it's impossible to find Sparks now. I probably look like an idiot going into Friar Tuck's, this big liquor store we have, going do you have Sparks? Oh no, we don't have that. Oh, okay. Bye. And so I texted Brian. I was like, oh, make sure you text me when you get here, because my movie starts before yours does. And and I was gonna do this dumb fucking thing. I was gonna put cans of Sparks energy liquor in the seats. And you guys, I was like, apparently it's hard to find that in Springfield now. And he's like, fuck, I haven't thought of that shit in a while. Now I really want one. Damn it. Sorry. I feel like I should apologize to Dave on camera right now, because this movie was really good.
Yeah, this movie was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I really like this film.
So did I. I really dug the shit out of it. It is, man, in the past, I don't know, off the top of my head, 10 years or so, maybe more, one of the fucking bleaker war movies I've seen.
Yeah. This was, it was always dark, muddy, and then just bloody as hell. Just gruesome and horrible. Yeah. Yeah,
this is if you take your glasses off, this is like looking at a post-apocalyptic movie.
Sure, yeah.
You're right about it being muddy. It is faces in the dirt, sometimes severed faces in the dirt, corpses getting ran over, heads exploding, and anymore, you certainly expect that in a war movie, but this one...
It was done in a way that was very raw and very real.
I think it had a lot to do with the fact that maybe about 90% of this movie takes place in the day. Yeah. But I don't think the sun is ever in this film.
Right, and it's supposed to be spring of 1945, which, from just, the stuff I've seen, when it was really rainy and gray, like that would have been in Europe. So, just really just muddy and just gross and...
Yeah, but they're going into a lot of different places that have already had casualties, that it seems like battles have already taken place, so they're running over pretty old corpses, and it touches upon a lot of stuff that, yeah, you've certainly seen in some war movies, but not by and large. Like,
well, see, I mean, you know, let's go down the list. I mean, of some of my favorite World War II stuff, you've got Saving Private Ryan is probably the most popular. I mean, I've seen The Band of Brothers and The Pacific.
Achtung, the Desert Tigers.
Of course, how could we forget Achtung, the Desert Tigers? The exploitation film that turns into a almost decent war movie.
Right? That's because of all the stock footage. The action was really good. It was amazing. It was very authentic.
Yeah, no, but no, I mean, you know, and like Saving Private Ryan, like they show very visceral, bloody images, but like that's not everything. You know, there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of, you know, it's.
Well, this movie touched into making children their soldiers,
and that's been lightly touched on in certain places. Like they'll show kids. I know that Band of Brothers had a whole episode kind of around one of the main characters kills an SS kid, and it kind of how it haunts him and so forth. But they really pushed that in this and showed some of the other atrocities that the SS were doing, like
hanging bodies who didn't want to fight with them,
children too, hanging children. Oh yeah, it's.
It gets into some pretty brutal shit.
It's brutal and it's unapologetic and it's. You know, I've been reading a whole bunch of stuff about this movie, and like apparently they showed it in like Washington. Yeah. And General Colin Powell, actually congratulated the director and said, you know, this is the most what it was like to be in combat that I've ever seen. And I gotta say, I for the life of me can't think of a good tank movie. You know what I mean? What's a good tank movie where it's just about
Tank Girl?
We're gonna edit this part out because this is the part where I strangle you.
I hate that fucking movie, man.
I know. No. God damn you. Anyway, but
you're right. I mean, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, not about that fucking tank girl, but I was thinking.
It seems like in you know other movies about World War II, it focuses on like the infantry. You know, if it's not like an airplane movie, it's focusing on the infantry. Yeah. And like specifically Saving Private Ryan, it's the infantry against tanks, right? Because they were soldiers on the streets trying to stop tanks. Yeah. And you know the battle was over once their tanks got there. Yeah. You know, so it's like, yay, the tanks are here finally. Yeah. You know, we can relax because the tanks will take care of this. Yeah. You know, you didn't get a lot of the how crazy intense a tank duel actually is.
Oh, they get into that in this movie, man. 2 tanks, like, fucking, like, dogfighting it and shit like that. Fuck.
The director of this, who I think is David Ayer, who has written some really awesome movies. He wrote U-571, which is one of my favorite movies.
I like that movie, yeah.
You know, again, an awesome submarine movie. He's a guy who used to be in the Navy.
That I didn't.
He was actually born in Champaign, Illinois.
No shit.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't live there very long. He moved to L.A. But, you know, he was in the Navy, so he crazy researches his movies. Yeah. He also wrote Training Day.
Yeah,
I mean, he's written and Sabotage.
He directed Sabotage, which I honestly liked.
End of Watch was another one of his.
Watch,
he does a lot of gritty fighting war movie, you know, type of movies, and so I respect that. And you know, like there's a scene where it touches on how basically in World War II, American armor was completely outclassed by German armor, and it was. You know, the German tanks were faster, they had way bigger guns, and they had way more armor. Yeah. And the only reason that the U.S. could beat the German tanks is because we had like 30 Shermans for every 1 Tiger. Yeah. So, you know, a Tiger could take out 10, 11 U.S. Shermans, but you still have another 20 Shermans to swarm it and hit it in its armor and just destroy it. So, you know, that's ultimately how we won the war, is we could produce these Shermans at an incredibly fast rate and just get a ton of them on the battlefield and swarm the German armor. And so you actually see that very much so in this movie. You have a point where there are 3 American tanks, 3 Shermans. Yeah. And you can tell, and you know that you've seen these crews work before. You know that they're very highly skilled crews. Well, it's 4, actually. It starts out as 4. And one is immediately hit and knocked out by the German Tiger. Yeah. And then the other 3 swarm that Tiger, and the Tiger takes out 2 of the other tanks before the final tank, which is Fury, does what you said, does this crazy dogfight where they're trying to outrun the gun as it's turning to get around to the back.
It's intense, man.
It's crazy intense, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been like that riveted.
Yeah.
And that's not the only scene that's like that. That scene where you've got, again, 4 tanks followed by infantry pushing in on a position where they have all these anti-tank guns.
Yeah.
And again, you see these, and I mean, the way visual effects have come and the way sound design has come, seeing these shots hit and then ricochet and then fly right past them, and you can hear them whiz and whistle as they go past. Oh, man. It was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, it was scary. I mean, you know what I've learned from this? Don't go to war.
If you build a time machine,
don't go to war.
Don't go to World War II.
Because holy shit. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible filmmaking. I have to touch on this and how excited I am about this, because I'm a World War II buff. I'm a military buff. I'm fascinated by this point in history. I'm fascinated by this stuff. But what's funny is that I actually read a really blasé review of this movie in The Hollywood Reporter.
It's getting, overall, it's getting fairly good reviews.
It was in Variety. Maybe it was
70-something on
Rotten Tomatoes, it's got, because it's a good movie, but it's so funny that I read this it's either Variety or Hollywood Reporter was like, he was very bland.
I didn't think it was bland.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I didn't think it was bland because it's one very, very dark, gritty, brutal war movie that never felt like it was chasing Saving Private Ryan. It never felt like it was...
And it never felt preachy.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it never felt like, ramming it in your face, war, I don't know. It was honestly like, this is hell.
Yeah.
This is hell, and these guys are just in it.
It was more about the conflict in the movie is more so... because it's 5 of them. It's a group of 5, and for a lot of it, it's almost kind of like you sort of see in a buddy movie. Only in this case, it's Brad Pitt and the young guy who's
Percy Jackson.
Is that who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. Like, I was watching. I'm like, I know him from something. But
I don't think I've actually ever seen one of those movies. Like, I've seen parts of it. I know.
Me neither. But here's why I immediately was like, okay, that's who it is, because every time I take the train, which is a few times a month, the little sleeve that they put the ticket in has, for the past, couple years, has had an ad for Percy Jackson on it.
Because they don't get new
Yeah, they don't. They don't at all. It's still advertised. So I see this kid's face all the time. Every single month.
So what do we do with these extra stock of 16,000 of these Percy Jackson? Send them to Springfield.
Someone really thought that was going to be a hit.
This is going to be huge. We're really going to get this all over the place.
This is going to be gigantic.
You know who's going to love this movie? Mythology. No, think about it. You've got mythology. You've got sexy young teenagers.
Yeah.
People who ride trains. That's who's going to be excited about this.
I hate doing this. I'm so sorry. I got to text Jake back. He writes to me and goes, "It's at the Good Theater, right?"
The Good Theater?
The one we go to all the time? Yes.
Yes.
So I just wrote back, yep. Sorry. Me and Jake's moved.
During a video.
The reason why I had to right now is because
I am so mad about this that I'm going to post this on my Instagram.
I'm going to Snapchat.
I don't have Instagram.
I'm going to Snapchat a picture of me touching my phone.
I don't have that. You know what? I have Facebook. I have I think actually my wife had Pinterest, and for some reason
I have Tinder because I'm very judgmental.
Tinder? Okay, yeah. Most of those things confuse and anger me.
I just yesterday found out what Snapchat is. I don't know. I don't keep up on shit. I'm not hip with the thing. I have a phone to text people. I had to because
it's true because you never pick it up.
Sometimes it's always on vibrate. So honestly, most of the time I just don't hear it, or I'm asleep. Me and Jake's, I had to set the alarm on my phone because me and Jake's movie is in probably 15, 20 minutes or something like that.
Well, we should probably talk more about this movie. We're getting off on wild tangents here.
Yeah, even when we have a time limit.
We have a time limit, I know. We're short on time.
I spent so much time talking about Sparks and The Best of Me and Poor Dave.
And Poor Dave.
But it's this group of guys where you have, Percy Jackson is this young kid who is a typist.
Right, he was a clerk who got sent to be a gunner or whatever it was, the front gunner.
How often did stuff like that happen? I mean, I don't doubt that
I'm sure
happened.
that stuff happened all the time, especially towards the end. I mean, you got the draft and all sorts of people being flooded, just churning, pushing, shoving people into the army to, fill replacements for all the people that were being killed.
Yeah.
So especially towards the end, if you've got I mean, it's just a meat grinder of just people being killed as you get the fanatical, because of what they touched on, you got, as they got closer to Germany, a lot of units surrendered, like a lot of regular German army units surrendered. So all that was really left was the SS, the most fanatical fighters, the ones who were absolutely fanatics. Most of the regular German army or the regular Germans were surrendering and trying, because what they saw was happening was there were two sides. There was coming from the West were the Western allies, England, America, Canada, Poland, everybody from there. But coming from the East was the Russians, and the Russians were pretty pissed because they had done some nasty shit to the Russians, so they did not want to be captured by the Russians, so they wanted to be captured by the Western Allies. So a lot of the regular units moved west and got captured by the Americans or British or not the SS. The SS stayed, and the SS were going to fight to the last. They were ordered to fight to the last man. Yeah. That's what they were absolutely ordered to do. They were ordered to fight a guerrilla war, go into the woods, and fight to the absolute last man, woman, and child. So a lot of the units that were going to fight, they were the most fanatical, so that they were causing a lot of casualties to, the armies that were trying to push their way through. So, you've got these, people who are being put in, as replacements who were, 18, 19 years old, had just finished basic training and were immediately shipped over there because they just needed bodies. And so that's the premise, is that you've got this tank crew that's been together since the beginning of the war. Yeah. And now they get this replacement who's, has no idea, has never fought, never done anything like that. So
another thing about this movie too is a lot of these guys are pretty dark dudes. Right, yeah. You have Brad Pitt, and he's great. I mean, it's World War II and Brad Pitt, so yeah, awesome. He's great. But then you also have, there's some of them that are hardcore alcoholics, which,
Sure, right, yeah.
And then you have John Bernthal, who might be a rapist.
He might be a rapist, He's really good. He was great.
He's great.
Yeah,
I love John Bernthal.
He's awesome. Yeah,
he's great. They're all good. Michael Pena's good.
He was really cool.
Shia LaBeouf.
I didn't hate him.
I know, that's the thing.
I wanted to hate him because he's Shia LaBeouf, but he was really good.
This is the first time I've ever bought him as an adult.
I
never thought I would be see Shia LaBeouf in a war movie and really believe he's seen some shit. I don't know what they do. They put they fucking bloodshot his eyes. They make him look gnarly in this, man.
Yeah.
And he's one of those actors who he's good in movies no one sees and terrible in movies everyone sees.
Yeah. I wonder how this movie's going to do because, it's frankly, the budget I was reading is like $68 million. Okay. Which is medium. I mean, that's not high budget. That's not a high budgeted film. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, with Transformers being 140 million. Yeah. 68 million.
Something like that.
68 million is kind of nothing. Especially for a war movie.
For a war movie starring Brad Pitt.
Well, and I mean, old, World War II stuff. I mean, that's an interesting fact I also heard thinking of, is that the Tiger tank was an actual Tiger tank. It's the only Tiger tank from the war that still runs.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. They borrowed it from a museum because they shot this in England. That's where they shot this. So they borrowed it from a museum. It's called Tiger 131. Yeah. It's the only one that's everything in every other movie since probably the 70s or 80s has been a prop tank. It has the tank tracks, but they build a plastic mold of the tank on top. So it looks like a tank, but they can blow it up or do whatever. This was an actual Tiger tank. Yeah. And what's funny is that you couldn't tell. I mean, I guess maybe certain people could tell, but apparently, it was the very first variant of the Tiger tank.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't the one that actually would have been there in 1945. Yeah. So but it was an authentic real Tiger tank.
So we're fucking using this shit.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of awesome. I mean, really, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you could have just built a resin one like they normally do and blow it up and whatever, and it's sure, whatever, that's fine. But it's to think. I was thinking because I knew that as I was watching this, was holy shit. watching an actual Tiger tank move and level its gun and do that stuff, like that's kind of astounding that thing still freaking runs.
Oh hell, like yeah, and to see, you know what, and to see something like that in a good movie, because usually when I read about they use this actual wartime ship and you go see it and it's a battleship.
Oh right, yeah. It was the actual Missouri.
But when it gets into the climax of this movie, when it turns into like assault on Tank 13, pretty much, Jesus fucking Christ. In a lot of movies, because that you see a lot of war movies that have the climax of like, we need to stand. And Saving Private Ryan. We need to stand.
We've got a whole army of Germans coming at us, but we got to hold this bridge.
We got to hold this bridge. We got to hold this town. We got to hold this crossroad. Right. Man, I got to tell you, man, this is one where like I normally in movies I'm like, yeah. I get it, man. You're gonna hold the bridge, hold the town, and stuff like that. Man, you know what? In this one, I was like, you should probably run.
I was like, you're all dead. I mean, that's all it was. It's just like, you're all dead.
Yeah, I was like, in this instance, man, I'm like, you should. Yeah, you should probably run.
The thing is that like my understanding is that like a lot of times, they put like a body on the tank. They made it look like it was already knocked out. Yeah. So they put like flaming stuff on it to make it look like it was already knocked out, which I think makes it more believable that they just walk up to it. Yeah. Because you think that the standard procedure is if you see a tank, you put a round in it just to be safe. You know what I mean?
Basically, the climax is that there's, what is it, like about 300, 400 SS. They're marching down the street.
Battalion or something coming at them.
The tank hits a mine. So at first they're like,
it loses its tread, so it can.
It loses its tread, and then so they're like, okay, well we need to hide this out, man. We got like 300 fucking SS coming towards us. Let's go hide over in these trees over there. And Brad Pitt's like, nah, I'm staying. Man, I'd be like, fuck you.
And good luck with that, sir. Right, yeah, I mean.
Nice knowing you, sir.
I mean, the prudent thing would be go back to command and say, hey, there's a hell of a lot of Germans over there. We should send, like, airplanes. Don't we have airplanes? We have airplanes. I mean, it's 1945 for Christ's sake. We have stuff.
Yeah,
stuff.
We got shit.
We got shit.
I saw planes earlier. It was a really good shot. It was like 100 planes like in the sky.
Yeah, that was
kind of really cool seeing it from the ground up.
Right. Yeah. It's like being in a tank is a point of view that, at least to my knowledge, we've never really spent time with. You've got good in plane movies. Like Memphis Belle's, I think, an awesome. In the World War II bomber. Which is kind of the same thing. They're in a metal tube and they're up against impossible odds, and so it's the crew dynamic that you're seeing, which is a great movie. So I've never really seen one like in a tank like this, and I really dug it. I mean, it was fresh.
Well, and the characters' banter was really good too, because I mean, it takes time out for them to. They talk about religion, they talk about hookers, stuff like that, like booze, all kinds of stuff, and their banter is really good together. The actors are really solid together. They have good chemistry. And then, honestly, my favorite scene in the movie, because it was acted so well, was when they were in that town and they were with those two German girls. That was actually pretty heartbreaking.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was beautiful, and it was intense, and it was. It was so well done.
It was a solid fucking piece of acting by every single one of them on there.
I know, yeah.
And it was actually kind of like the top of this character arc that Percy Jackson has to take.
He has a better name in the movie. Norman, they call him
Norman. And they at the beginning of it, when he's afraid to shoot anything.
Right, like, yeah, exactly.
Fucking anything to. After this one event happens and he's at this fucking machine gun like, fuck you Nazis, fuck you Nazis. And that was a hell of an action scene at the end of this movie.
It was great. Yeah,
I'm sitting there like, oh, they're all, this is going to be one of those movies, isn't it? They're all going to die.
Well, from the moment, knowing the premise coming in, I was like, they're probably all going to die. There's no way, short of a last-minute cavalry rescue. Which I thought maybe...
I didn't think the movie would do that.
That just seems totally... Because the movie was that... there's no, other movie, like, go back to the 40s, war movies were all about the cavalry charge, and here comes John Wayne as fat as hell running in with the Marines,
Yeah.
So, that's what because war was glorious, and we'll fight to the, we'll take on the enemy and win.
Yeah.
That was not the theme of this movie.
No, so I didn't even...
So it would be totally against the theme and the tone of this movie had they have been rescued.
It would have been weird for that to happen, too.
It would have been
considering kind of where this scene was taking place and what time of night it
right,
was
and the setup,
taking
too.
place.
The setup was we got nothing. We have nothing to hold. You're the only thing we have left to hold this. So, so I thought that maybe, but then I was like, I really hope they don't.
I didn't think they would. It pretty much went...
How you thought it would?
Yeah, because throughout, I mean, any movie like this, you're kind of like, okay, you're kind of in your head, like, which one's gonna die, and like, the kind of movie that it is, I was like, I went into it pretty much sure Brad Pitt was gonna get it. And
you kind of have to. If you're the lead actor in a war movie, you kind of gotta die.
Yeah.
Because there's no other, how is he going to come out of that,
Right, yeah. And John Bernthal, he plays a real bastard in this.
He does, but he's good. He's
great. Oh, he's great. And so I was like, I'm pretty sure Bernthal's going to get it. Especially because they kind of give him a moment later on.
They do give him a little moment where it's like, he is human. I mean, he's a bastard.
They humanize him.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, he's
dead.
He's probably dead. And then towards the end, I was like, this is going to be one of those. I knew if any one of them was going to live, it was going to be the person who does live, and that was the case. Still fucking intense as shit.
Yeah.
Still fucking well shot, choreographed. Like, it's fucking guerrilla, man. They are fucking diving out of this tank, going to get other fucking guns and shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because, like just think of the sound design, like, thinking about, a tank and how, a tank works. They you hear the old veterans talk about, like, when you're on the ground and when a tank is near you, the whole ground shakes. I mean, it's a 30-ton war machine rumbling past you. I mean, it's a huge, terrifying thing that's there with you. So you think to yourself, oh, you just stay in it, right? You're protected from anything. Well, again, the Shermans, they were nicknamed the Ronson, which is an old lighter. And the Ronson logo, or tagline for the Ronson lighter was "Lights every time."
Oh, okay.
So they nicknamed the crews nicknamed the Sherman the Ronson because it used gasoline for its fuel, which would burn. Yeah. Which meant that they said it lights every time because every time it got hit by a German tank, they would burst into flames. So, it's a nickname, but it's a terrifying nickname as in that it lights every time. Yeah. Because one shot from a German 88 or from a German Tiger and it would explode into flames. Because you see, like with the German tank, if you remember when they knocked it out, it didn't explode. It didn't burn into flames. Like that's accurate because for whatever it was knocked out. Yeah. But the Germans got out and they weren't on fire. You know, they got out and they shot them down and everything. But when every single American tank that got hit,
there's a lot of people on fire in this
burst
movie.
Into flames.
Tops blowing off, heads blowing off, people running out on fire. People think, oh my god, there's a scene where a guy's on fire and he just offs himself.
Shoots
with his
himself.
own gun.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah. I mean, it's so intense and raw, and it's but it's exactly what you want it to be. I mean, like you've seen so many war movies that glorify it or make it like hey, it's good to be a soldier and it's good to fight the good fight, and it's like, okay, no, I mean. Yes, it's good that these guys did this. It's good that they saved the world from this kind of terror, but holy shit, what they had to do it. I mean, it's like, this is why we don't want to go to war again. This is why war is bad, because this is war. War's not glorious. War's not fun. War's not a, good old rock. No, holy shit, it's bloody, it's cruel, it's evil, it's mean. Yeah, so it's, oh God, it's so
you
well
will
done.
find out, like in this movie, like with the young kid in this movie, you'll find out just what you're capable of.
Right, yeah, and it's
between this and Lone Survivor, two really fucking good war movies this year. Between the two, I mean, it's been since January since we saw the other one. Between the two of them, I honestly probably like this one a little bit better. I thought they were both great movies.
Both great movies. Yeah, I like this one. I like this one because it was a fresh perspective for me. Because, again, to my knowledge, I've never seen a tank movie where you actually see tanks fight as tanks. Yeah. Not just infantry support coming in, shooting and blowing stuff up. Like tanks against tanks. Real fun. And I mean, scary.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit! When they're outrunning the gun is coming at them, and he's looking at it through the.
And I thought the same thing when I was watching it. I was like, I am hard pressed to think of, and again, of course, this is off the top of my head, but I'm hard pressed to think of how often I've seen something like that in a war film. In plenty of other things, we're talking about submarines, airplanes, stuff like when you said this is from the writer of U-571, that didn't surprise me.
Great. I mean, I love that movie. That's one of those movies that like I own it. But if I see it like on like Cinemax or HBO, I'll still watch it and just watch it and enjoy the hell out of it.
That's a fun movie.
It's Harvey Keitel as Matthew McConaughey
and Submarine McConaughey.
Fuck
yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? I can.
So you can. There's your alarm.
So I can go see the Book of Life.
My final thoughts are: enjoy the Book of Life.
That's supposed to be good. That's supposed to be good. Hey, I'm not.
I don't know what Dave's.
I'm good. I'm not at the other one. No. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get in there so that I can avoid running into
You're right.
them.
Good thinking. Good thinking. That is a safe bet. Godspeed to you, sir.
Thank you. I highly recommend this movie. Really fucking good.
Really awesome movie.
See ya.
Bye-bye.